Hello everyone, and welcome to Up Late with Ben Northey, the online classical music talk show that began as a humble way of helping people through the lockdown here in Melbourne and has since become one of the longest running online music talk shows in the history of the world. Let's just all let that sink in for a second. Were it not for our wine sponsor Tarrawara, I'm not sure if I would have made it this far. So big thanks to you, Tarrawara. I'm coming to you tonight from Wurundjeri land, in my home here in Melbourne, the land of the First Nations people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And here, like much of the southeast and central coast of Australia, we are still in lockdown, which is incredibly tough on everyone. However, there are some glimmers of hope emerging as various announcements of easing restrictions and roadmaps are made. And if things go to plan, it sounds just ridiculous to even say that, but it is possible things could go to plan. The MSO will be performing to live audiences again in some capacity before the end of the year, which would be absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that you'll agree. Plans are in place and being made all the time to make that happen. Here in Melbourne, it was slightly tough to watch our dear friends in Perth hosting the AFL Grand Final on the weekend, a win for the Melbourne Demons, which would have made one of our previous guests, bass player Ben Hanlon, delirious with joy. He's a massive Demons fan. And Ben was last seen running down the street in tears of joy, waving his Demons scarf high in the air, yelling, "We did it, we finally did it." If anyone has seen Ben Hanlon, please approach with caution and contact the MSO management immediately. And by the way, on a serious note, huge congratulations to the West Australian Symphony Orchestra for doing such a terrific job on the halftime entertainment. So it's a huge week this week for the MSO as the 2022 subscription season is launched tomorrow and MSO subscriptions go on sale. They come in many shapes and sizes. For those of you who aren't yet subscribers, you can choose your own concerts. You can pick your favorite venues, your favorite artists. You can pick the number of concerts you'd like in that subscription and put together your own personal MSO season by looking through the brochure and seeing all of the wonderful highlights on offer as Melbourne gets back into presenting live music once again in 2022. It's so exciting to be looking forward to the future with that kind of optimism. We've all missed it, and I'd like to pay a special tribute to those most deeply affected, to all of the performing artists out there. Also people working in the hospitality industry, the tourism industry, all of our teachers, all of our healthcare workers out there doing it tough right now. But I'm still incredibly proud, as we all should be, the people of all of Australia, really. Through our sacrifices, lives have been saved, and all of this pain hasn't been for nothing. As difficult as that is to remember sometimes, we have to remind ourselves of that. So don't forget, tonight you can put any questions you have for my guests into the chat window on YouTube, and I'll pass on as many of them as I can later on in our chat. So to tonight's guests, while we have all been doing it tough here in Southeast Australia, there have been some positive and uplifting stories from lockdown as well. Imagine, just for a moment, for example, getting married during this crazy time. Well, that's just what my first two guests did. They're both musicians in the MSO, violinist Freya Franzen and French horn player Saul Lewis. Welcome to the both of you, and huge congratulations on your wedding. A superb way to pass the time in lockdown. Genius idea. Now, how hard is it, Freya, maybe you first, how hard is it to organize a wedding in lockdown? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that was a challenge. I think we had it all planned for about 2 weeks out, and then every day in that 2-week period leading up to the wedding, we were wondering whether it was going to happen at all, and plans were changing every day. We sent out so many emails to all our guests. We lost about 30 people from Sydney. Saul's group party changed many times.
Where was this happening? Because this obviously wasn't in Melbourne, right? Because in Melbourne you would have had 5 people and a dog or something if you were lucky. So where were you?
We got married in Canberra, my hometown.
Yeah, okay. And so it all changed. Saul, did you have multiple options for your best man and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I've got a long history of being a Sydney-sider, and so a lot of my sort of groom's party were from Sydney. And as they gradually pulled out of being involved, I had to sort of ask further afield. It was kind of embarrassing to ask people, saying, "Oh, look, I invited you to the wedding, but do you mind stepping up into the groom's party?" And my best man, who was invited to the wedding and then was asked to be a groomsman, I then invited to be my best man. he then approached his wife and said, do I need to be ready to step in for Saul if he doesn't make it to step up to the next level? So,
It's good. You need a backup. Everyone needs a backup at the moment. And believe me, as a conductor, it's like everyone's got 5 different conductors waiting for every concert in the orchestras right now that are still working at least. And look, I also should point out to everybody that double congratulations are in order to the both of you, because you are expecting a baby.
And
that is really, really thrillingly huge congratulations. Yeah. So what's the due date, Freya?
Officially the 23rd of December, but
wow.
She'll come.
We have to work out what happens if that baby's born on Christmas. Do you have to name the baby something special if it's born on Christmas Day?
Christmas.
Like Christmas. Literally Christmas. That's brilliant. I like that. Christmas Lewis.
Or Bon
Come
Bon.
on down. Has that actually led to a lot of like nesting sort of stuff and Bunnings trips and all that sort of thing in the last few months?
We've been nesting hard. Yep. I mean, there's no performing going on, so Saul's been busy building furniture, and I've been doing some upholstering, and we've been painting the house.
You've been painting the house today as well?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
We're pretending to be on the block.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, look, this show's a chance for people to get to know you, hear about your lives in music. And this first time I've interviewed 2 people, so bear with me. But I think we'll maybe start with Freya first.
Sure.
Freya, I'm reminded if you're expecting on Christmas Day, you're getting toward that last trimester. I remember my wife was tired. Remember when the 8 p.m. start to Up Late with Ben Northey was actually ironic? Yeah. Like it's not anymore. It feels like 3 a.m. I don't know. How are your energy levels at this time of night?
Yeah, I'm generally half asleep on the couch by now. So,
well, it's a good time to ask you about, your own childhood, because you're about to bring another human into the world, and they're going to have their childhood that's influenced by the 2 of you. Yeah. So tell me about the young life of Freya Franzen. What were you like as a child?
Oh, very, very energetic. Very noisy.
So music was an obvious kind of thing. Was it always something that you wanted to do?
I only started the violin because my best friend was playing the violin. Right. My parents are not musicians. I just saw her doing it and said, Mum, we're going to do that.
Yeah. You got brothers and sisters as well?
I have a younger brother, Hal.
Yeah. Yep. Is he also a musician or musical?
He's not a musician now, but he played violin and viola throughout school.
Okay. And so your parents were excited about the enthusiasm you had for music. I mean, was it something that you just always loved and wanted to stick at, or did you have to be kind of pushed through practice and all that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, I definitely had to be pushed through practice. My mother was a saint. She got me up at 6 a.m. every morning to do my violin practice.
Wow.
Yeah, without fail. I often wished that it was, but no.
So you were tiny, like 5-year-old in prep or something, right? When you started?
When did I start? I started when I was 6.
6, yeah.
Yep.
And so when you're in secondary school, were there particular teachers that helped you, develop and decide to become a musician? I mean, can you remember that decision being made?
Yeah, I can. And it was going to a national music camp. I came back and I was just in music nerd fest. Like I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? The power of those kinds of experiences.
Oh,
and I know Saul will talk about a few of those kinds of experiences that we shared a little bit of, at least in the same groups, and just how formative those things are. They're so powerful.
Yeah.
So you were in Canberra at this point in time. I'm presuming you kind of got to Sydney every now and again for lessons, or were you learning from someone there?
Yes,
were you learning from someone in Canberra?
I was learning with the same teacher in Canberra, Gillian Bailey Graham, from when I was 6 up until when I was about 16, but I was also going up to Sydney for some lessons at the end of my high school years, just before I went and studied at the Sydney Con.
Yeah, who were you learning with there in Sydney?
I was with Gertz Richter.
Okay.
And later in my degree that I did there, I moved to Christopher Kimber.
Okay. And so I'm presuming it's Sydney Conservatorium after high school.
That's right.
And you're fully like you're on the road to being a professional musician. It must have been a pretty exciting time to get down to Sydney. Did you move down there by yourself and like?
I did.
You know,
I did
find
as a
a share house and
17-year-old.
all that?
I moved
17.
there.
Wow.
Woo, yes. Yeah.
Where did you stay?
I was very lucky to be put up in a studio apartment in Kirribilli, and
Nice.
I was so forgetful that I went back every day in pretty much my first year of uni to go and collect books that I'd forgotten, and luckily it was incredibly close. But there was a big learning curve for me after high school into university.
Yeah, right. Well, moving to Sydney at 17, it must have been a huge adjustment for you. You do the Bachelor of Music.
Yes.
You go on to start a master's degree.
Yeah.
Did you really enjoy your time at the con?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought I had a really great time. But I wasn't that keen on playing in orchestra then. So yes, as you say, I started my master's degree and I only did a year of it. Racked up a massive bill. And then for about 3 or 4 years after that, I was doing gigs and teaching and going to music festivals and getting into a lot of different sorts of music. And after a while, I just sort of decided it was time to knuckle down and you know, try and get a job.
Get a job, get a real job.
If
there's such a thing in a musician's career.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
exactly.
interesting that, you know, the apprenticeship, you know, even for someone like you who's studied and is young, it still takes time, doesn't it? You know, you've done 5 years of study or 4 years of study and then another 3 years of professional experience. And, you know, that's all part of your apprenticeship to going on and getting a job in an orchestra. It's amazing. So what about orchestral experience? Because I know you obviously would have played in orchestras at the con.
Yeah.
And where did that lead you?
Yep. So I had a love of orchestral playing and it just sort of dwindled a little during my con years. But I went and did the Sydney Symphony Fellowship in 2011.
Yeah, where I met you. I remember
That's right.
doing one of those projects that you
Yes.
were playing in. I think you were leading, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that really inspired me to the wonders of playing in an orchestra. And the following year, I really applied myself, auditioned for the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London.
Yeah, right.
And went and did my master's over there. And you know, I think 26 is quite old to do a master's in the music scene. And, you know, there are all these young'uns in there. But it was great for me. Like, I really applied myself and I had a great time there and got so much out of it.
Yeah. What struck you the difference between, say, studying in Sydney at the con and then Guildhall? Like, was it chalk and cheese or were they just similar or?
Well, I mean, London is just this amazing melting pot of the art scene. And I mean, there is sort of no comparison between cities that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I had these amazing mentors from like the LSO and, you know, it was awesome, really awesome.
And so you obviously come back to Australia and I mean, obviously you're ready now. What did you get into when you got back to Australia? Like, how did your professional work start when you came back?
Yes, with my first opera, The Ring Cycle.
Oh, that little piece of Wagner. Yeah. Gee, wow. Did that kind of make you love or hate opera? Because that would have been a big play.
It's an opera by Tolkien, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yes, that one.
I had no idea what I was in for. I managed to get myself a contract during the ring, for the Ring Cycle, and I remember getting this like pile of music about this high going,
crazy.
Whoa, okay. Well, it seems pretty long. I can't possibly listen to all of that. So you start to practice it. There's all these tempi. You have no idea about anything. And so I ended up just sort of winging some of the rehearsals, which was also a mistake. But luckily we had 1.5 months of rehearsals. So by
1.5 months of rehearsals.
Yeah.
And then how long was the run? Because you did three cycles, right? In that
yeah,
production.
we did. Yeah.
So that was a month of actual concerts
That's right. Yeah.
and 6 weeks of rehearsals.
Yeah.
That's a serious contract.
Yeah, that was epic. Yeah.
And the strings just never stopped. That must have been full on, but amazing at the same time. I'm imagining.
Oh, I fell
to
in
be able
love
to
with
play that.
Wagner.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone I never thought I'd fall in love with. I was in this
interesting,
amazing
isn't
ring
it?
bubble.
I know.
Can
And hearing
I
it.
just say at this point, Ben, that I've done a couple of Wagner operas, and I'd be on page 13 of the horn part going, gosh, this is long. And I'd look forward to the back of the first violins and go, they're on page 84.
Yeah, that's right. I know. It's just nuts. Absolutely nuts, isn't it? How much the strings play in those Wagner
Incredible.
operas, particularly violins. And so I'm conscious of the fact that you win your job in MSO after that pretty quickly, right? How did that come about? When did you start auditioning? Straight away?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. I think I did some work in Sydney, and the job in MSO came up at the end of May in 2014. And yeah, well, I mean, I actually left after my third round because I'd made a mistake, and I was like, oh well, you don't win auditions if you make mistakes. So I just left. And I get
and they
this
called you
call
back.
saying, "Hi, we'd like to offer you a job." I'm like, "Is this a joke? Are they,
Wow.
are they kidding?"
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And look, I know you probably don't want to bring it up, but I will, just because I want to focus on the legendary player that you are. But you also won an audition in Sydney at that same time. And that is a rare situation when the musician has that ability to be able to choose. I mean, that's an amazing thing. That
It is a
shows,
privilege. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
It shows what amazing form you must have been in. To win both of those auditions. I know it's awkward a little bit to talk about, but anyway.
Thank you. I'll take
it's
it.
nice.
Thank you.
It's a badge of honor. You should get a T-shirt made. Totally. I think Prue Davis did that as well. I
sure
remember.
she did.
Yeah, back in her time, she won both those jobs at the same time. So I guess, what are you most looking forward to? What have you missed the most about playing? It's a long kind of, answer in many ways, but what are you looking forward to most about getting back to live concerts?
Just playing with other people,
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time in my early violin career, I loved solo violin repertoire, but now I have to say I'm all about playing with other people. Chamber music, orchestral music, I miss it so much.
Yeah.
Playing on your own is just sort of boring.
Totally. Yeah, that's right. So have you got the duets happening at home? Have you been asked to do any of those horn and violin duets?
We've not stooped to that level yet.
Not a lot of repertoire out there for that combination. I'm sure there are some pieces, but oh well.
We're waiting for the piano to arrive. For
piano
the
minus
trios.
one or something.
Yeah, well, you've got all those decisions to make now with little bub coming to the house. I'm sure you've got your piano on the way as well. Well, Saul, let's move on to you now. So, how did you come to be playing the French horn? How did this happen to young Saul Lewis?
Well, I was just a little average kid in the northern beaches of Sydney, and music was just something I did along with going to school, riding my BMX bike after school, going to swimming club, and I played the E-flat tenor horn in the brass band. Where in year 4, the teacher went around and said, "Oh." He looked at your lips and he said, "Trombone for you, trumpet for you, oh, drums for you."
It's so arbitrary, isn't it? The way.
And we played the Stedfords and stuff like that. But I mean, there's not a lot of glamour in playing the E-flat tenor horn. For those who don't know, it's the smallest little tuba you can imagine. So it was just something I did. But I did get to year 6. And that's when I started teaching, because all the year 4s learnt from the year 6s. So I learnt from the year 6s.
Wow.
As a 9-year-old, I learnt from the 11-year-olds.
That's
as
amazing.
As an 11-year-old, I taught the 9-year-olds. So that's when my teaching career started.
That's a cool. That's a cool structure. I've never heard of that.
Well, this is the day when there's no specialised lessons. But my parents were worried about the local high school being a bit rough, so they searched around, not being able to afford a private school. But they found this selective school called the Conservatorium of Music.
Wow.
And so I was going hard. For 9 months, I learned piano, flute, singing, private lessons on E-flat tenor horn. And I got into this Conservatorium of Music high school in Sydney. And when I arrived, they said, "Well, you can't play the E-flat tenor horn. It doesn't exist in orchestral music."
Wow.
And it doesn't. And they said, "What do you want to do?" And I'd just gone to see Star Wars. and
Yeah.
the spaceship going overhead and everything, and just thinking, oh my God, that horn sound, it just talked to my heart. And I
Yeah.
thought, if I get into the school and I have to choose between trumpet and French horn, that's the instrument I'm going to play.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? I know we've spoken about this before, the impact of those John Williams film scores on our age group, you know, the people who grew up in the 70s and 80s. You know, it can't be underestimated. And the fact that you say that was really inspiring for you when you heard that music, you were like, wow, French horn. I remember Andrew McLeod saying the same thing about the piccolo, the solos in that, but also, yeah, there are great solos in that Star Wars score as well, aren't they? Just the whole Force theme is all just
Yeah.
French horn the whole time. Must have been fun to be able to play that when we did them with the orchestra. That must have been amazing.
Well, when you're a kid, dreams seems unattainable, and
Yeah.
and it took me a while to realise when the MSO was doing it that I was actually playing something I dreamed of as a kid, not to play, just that. And I just got so excited. It took me back to being a kid, to the memory of the sound.
Yeah.
It took me back to being that young person, so influenced by John Williams. And not a lot of people realise that John Williams is really a serious composer. He's written horn concertos,
Yeah.
and music for film is one of his sort of hobbies.
Yes.
Which he makes a lot of money out of. He's very famous, but he's a really serious composer, and he really crosses over between the commercial world, the accessible world, and the more maybe some people think more esoteric world of Western art music. And I just think he does it beautifully.
Yeah, I agree. And he's followed in the footsteps of Eric Korngold, you know, who was his great mentor, who was exactly the same. But for years, just people turned up their noses at his music, you know, just through pure artistic snobbery, because he'd made a fortune in Hollywood. Somehow he wasn't able to be a serious composer. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. His music's incredible. But look, back to French horn, playing the horn. I mean, great career move for a start, because you know, it's always in demand, isn't it? You know, so that was clever.
Yeah.
That was clever.
More vacancies than trumpet vacancies, that's for sure.
There you go. Exactly. But twice the number.
That's
but
right.
you must have had good teachers at Con High, I'm imagining. And also you must have been surrounded by some pretty talented young musicians going through there as well. Can you remember?
I mean,
who was there?
back in that day, Ben, I mean, you may remember education was free. I mean, you got great education, and a lot of it. It was really valued, and it didn't cost what it does today. And it's just a lucky time to have been there, and sharing a school with. I mean, I went to class with people who began piano at the age of 2, and I took up the horn at age 12, and I didn't know what C major scale was, and they were coming to school after hearing an advert on TV the night before, going, "Hey, to hear that advert, what a cool jingle!" Doing it from ear, and I was totally intimidated and surrounded. And it's a really amazing, important development to have yourself surrounded by the best people, better than yourselves.
Yeah,
it's a really important way to get better. Is just be humble, be confident, but be humble, and surround yourself with the best you can find.
Yeah, must have led to some pretty good orchestral projects, I'm imagining too, with players of that caliber. That must have been fun once you started, you know, getting together in groups and playing. Was that like straight away a big part of that course?
I do. I mean, every Wednesday was lunch hour concert, and you know, Richard Tognetti and all these amazing sort of young developing players at that time were just performing at this high level, and you just sat there going, I could never do that.
Yeah.
And you just watch them walk on stage at the age of 17, do a concerto, and just watch them going, that's just so inspiring and almost beyond realms of possibility for yourself. But the sounds, you kind of surround yourself with great sounds, and it just sort of goes into your fibre, into your being, to hear that great quality of sound.
Yeah, so you got the bug, but I know you're a very, very good golfer as well. I know I've learned that the hard way playing golf with you. But were you really sporty as a kid as well? Was that hard to balance?
I just had a lot of interests. You know, I mean, back in that day, you got home from school, and my mum used to make me do piano practice for half an hour, and I used to cry, saying, "I want to go outside and play." And if I did my half-hour practice from 3:30 until dinner time, I could go and ride my bike and play golf and go swimming and running, and I used to do a lot of different stuff. And music was one of those things I did. Yeah. And Saturday afternoon became complicated as my soccer games got later in the day. Yeah. My mum's stress level getting me from soccer to youth orchestra became very high. And I used to wash my knees off in the car as I went from a soccer game in the mud to a Chike 5 rehearsal with Richard Gill conducting in Sydney. So they were amazing times. And then eventually I got to, I think, 15 and 16, and Mum said, your soccer games are at the same time as youth orchestra. What do you want to do? And I was like, I think music's for me. I just love the social element. I loved how music inspired me. A really important concert I went to I was 13, and I used to grow up listening to jazz. And my dad loved Sammy Davis Jr. and took me to Sammy Davis Jr. live at the Sydney Opera House. And I just sat there as a 13-year-old listening to Mr. Bojangles in tears. And I thought, I saw him on stage thinking, if someone can be on stage and influence people in the audience and have that effect on their life, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to have that impact on people and share love of the touching people's hearts. And that was a really significant decision-making process. I love sport, but music has that extra ability to inspire people at I think, a deeper level than sport can.
Yeah. So you've got the bug for music and you've made your choice. And like many musicians, it wasn't plain sailing, was it, through this time? You know, it wasn't an easy road. It wasn't like one thing just led to another. It's, you know, a bit of a journeyman kind of start to the career, which I think is really interesting for people. So many young musicians watch this show. They're always fascinated by the fact that everyone's got an individual pathway. Tell us about those challenges that you had toward, you know, the end of, I suppose, the high school period and going into your university years.
Yeah, I suppose I think I was considered to have like a really nice sound and a musical approach to playing the horn. Yeah. I definitely had some fundamental flaws that needed correcting. That I see this in a lot of players, that you have the ability to have such determination. You find a way of working around that. And I did that for a long time. But I got to my late teens, early 20s, I probably became a bit more self-conscious, and everything started falling apart and fragmenting. And I actually got to the end of my BMUS degree, and I got a conceded pass. I had to delay my recital because my playing was really under pressure and not performing very well. And my fundamental techniques were really falling apart. And I just scraped through, to be honest. I think I got 48 out of 100 for my final recital.
And French horn, there's nowhere to hide, is there? Like, and once it's in your head, that's tough. How did you turn that around? Like, where did you go after that? Because you must have been thinking, well, that's the last thing I'm going to be doing.
I think in my early 20s, delusionally, I thought something would happen magically that would turn everything around. And I got to sort of a bit older, I think maybe 23, 24. I thought, if I don't do something about this, I'm going to be 50. I'm going to go to a concert and look on the stage and see the people down there and go, why didn't I try harder? I might have been able to get there. And I just became extremely determined to not have that regret. And I thought, I'm going to go as hard as I can for as long as I can. And if I don't make it, I'll be proud of myself for doing it. If I do make it, great.
Yeah. And so you really knuckled down because you were doing other things, weren't you? You know, I mean, like everyone at that age, you've got to get a job.
Delivering pizzas and working with David Jones in the toy department. That was fun. Playing cricket in the aisles after 5:30. That was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, this is important. This is young people's lives now as well. And especially in this age of COVID, where it's more challenging than ever for young people to come through. So you knuckled down, didn't you? I mean, it's just, you know, you got committed. Did you have someone helping you through that period as well? A mentor?
Yeah, teacher? I mean, I had great teachers at the con. I mean, the teacher is very important, but I mean, what is that famous saying? When the student is ready, the master will appear. Like the lessons were there. I just wasn't in the right headspace to receive all the information, and I just really focused on that's the most important thing. And you know, I would say to anyone who's gone through some hard times, fail as much as you can, keep doing the thing you like to do, and just keep failing, and just keep getting up and keep going. Make as many mistakes as you can, because like as Edison found when he invented the light bulb, or found the light bulb, every mistake he made got him one step closer to the success. You sort of fall into success. Yeah. You don't find it, it finds you when you're ready.
Well, you're a real example of that resilience that is required. And how many auditions did you do to get into orchestras?
I think I probably did at least a dozen without getting through the first round.
There you go. And see, Rowan DeCourt, I think he was mentioning it was like that too. It was just a long road. And you must have had to look into that am I going to keep doing this? Like, it must have
Yeah.
been a question at some point, but how did it finally, crack for you?
I think I was a week. I was a week away from the audition that I did win, and I'd had enough. I'd just done an audition and not got through. I thought, what's the point in doing anymore? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm 26.
Yeah.
I have to do something else. I've been pushing hard for 3 years on top of the other century what felt like of preparing. And I just got convinced, just do this one more. It's only a week away. You've already done so much work. I said, what's the point? And I just did it. I got over the line, and that was the start. That was the start of my teacher said, the job maketh the musician. Like, you've got to just got to do it.
Yeah.
That's
do
it.
as much as you can, and by doing it, you will learn more than preparing to do it.
Yeah, so true. So you end up working in the Australian Opera and Ballet Orchestra, who are one of the world's great opera orchestras. Such a fabulous group and so responsive. I've worked with that orchestra many times. You've got some good colleagues too. So Jeff Collinson, the great horn players there. You're playing third horn in the opera orchestra, is that right?
Yeah.
Andrew Bain's there.
Yeah.
How did you... there's that story I would love you to share about Charles McKerris, if you're happy to do that, because that's pretty funny. It's one of the highlights, and we've all been humiliated backstage in orchestra land. What's your story? What's your humiliation story?
Well, I mean, I was in the orchestra for a long time, so I mean, this story doesn't indicate my lack of professionalism, but there were a couple of instances where I wasn't on the ball, and ironically, I mean, I'm a late preparer, and I normally get to work quite late. Some of my colleagues in management, if they're watching, they'll go, "Oh, Saul's always the last on stage." And this particular opening night of Kacha Kabanova by Janacek, conducted by the late and great Sir Charles McKerris, I was at work an hour early, and I was warming up and getting ready slowly. I was just feeling really proud of myself. And then I walked into the pit at 7:25 for a 7:30 show and looked at my stand and saw no music. And I had this instant feeling of sinking in my body and wanting the floor to open up. Went, I know where my music is. I never take it home and practice it, but I did. And I forgot to bring it in.
That'll teach you.
Now, I hunted around. I talked orchestral management. I spoke to Richard Gulak, once again, I have to bring his name up. He was a choral master. And they looked around for scores, for spare parts. They couldn't find anything. The announcement came with the tannoy, Sir Charles McKerris, can you please make your way to the pit this is your second call?
Oh my God.
And he started walking from his dressing room at 7:28. And Richard was really trying to look after him. He said, you stay here, I'll talk to him. So I stayed just behind the door. They went off to talk to him, and this is 5 people all talking. And he started looking very agitated, as you can probably imagine, opening night of his debut of
opening
piece.
night.
And I thought, I cannot stand here anymore. I cannot stand and watch this. I went up and said, hello, Sir Charles. And went, oh, it's you, is it? I went, yes, Sir Charles. Well, you're a bloody idiot. I went, yes, Sir Charles. Well, go and get it right now. So I ran out of the opera house. I ran to my car. I broke probably about 10 road rules. Sorry, New South Wales Police. I got back 20 minutes late. I missed the first 2 pages. And as I was coming in, I thought the worst thing to do after doing this is to do a bad performance. I thought, focus on playing as well as you can with your heart rate at 200.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's a good lesson too for me. So if someone forgets their music, that's what I need to do as well. I've got it. Thank you, Sir Charles McKerris. That's done beautifully for me. Look, there's a couple of questions that have come in, and we'll get to a few more of these. But Freya, maybe a question for you. What instrument will the baby play?
If it's smart. Oh, look, we've got a piano coming in.
Yep.
I'm going to say cello.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Didn't see that
Breaking
coming.
news.
Did you? Saul? Well, you need to add some bass register, I guess, for the family band. So that's an important. This is what it comes down to, instrumentation now, really.
I mean, Ben, you can probably
Pretty
tell
much.
us better than anyone. I mean, there's a lot of wind, isn't there, in a baby? So maybe I was thinking a wind instrument. But
That's true. Yeah, sometimes you don't even need an instrument. Believe me. Well, look, on that note, let's go from the ridiculous to the sublime, and let's listen to
Yes.
some music, because we're about halfway through the interview. I'd
Great.
love
Okay.
to hear about the music that you've selected, because you've spent a good 6 years playing in the orchestra together now,
Yeah.
and this is music that the MSO has performed. So tell us about what you've chosen.
Yeah. So we've chosen an excerpt from the third movement, When I Fall Asleep, from Strauss's Four Last Songs. We played this just before the 2014 European tour with Sir Andrew and the late Aaron Wall. And it's significant for many reasons. I didn't really know the orchestra particularly well, so this tour was a real initiation for me. More obviously, it has lots of violin and horn solos, and it has that vocal element. Both of us have a love of opera, and this is one of those pieces in the orchestral repertoire that is quite operatic and beautifully scored.
And the poem is by Hermann Hesse, a pacifist, considered a traitor actually in Germany during World War I and World War II. And it's such a beautiful poem. It talks about the difficulties of living life, the intellectual thought during the day, and the stresses of the heart, and the busyness of the hands, and just it talks about releasing at the end of the day and relaxing and letting your soul go off into different worlds. And unfortunately, Erin is no longer with us, and I thought if there's ever a place that she deserves to be, and all us artists who are struggling with every day deserve to be at the end of the day, is to go off into a beautiful place, into the beautiful land of sleep.
Beautiful. Well, let's hear it now. Einschlafen gehen. Music of Richard Strauss. What a beautiful selection, you guys. Thank you so much for choosing that. And it is really special to hear Erin Wall singing again. Is that Dale playing the solo as well?
It is Dale.
It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Stunning.
Just changes the way I breathe listening to that. I mean, I just breathe differently when I hear that sound. Just wow.
Yeah, I've got great memories of hearing that on the tour that followed in the Concertgebouw. That was really stunning, hearing it in that period. So you guys actually do play in smaller ensembles together, don't you? You've got the Melbourne ensemble. That must be fun too, playing music with your colleagues after coming off stage for big orchestral programs, to be able to make chamber music together. You must love doing that, right?
Yeah. Chamber music definitely gives you a sense of identity, and it gives you a different way of expressing your creativity. And the Melbourne ensemble, shout out to Jenna Breen. This was her baby. She's now in Seattle. But it's a mixed ensemble, and I really enjoy bringing the orchestra down to a real sort of micro level.
Yeah.
of the strings and winds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. A nice thing for the two of you to do together as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the one thing a lot of people are fascinated about is there are a number of couples, obviously, in the MSO, and you know what that's like. We spoke to Prue Davis about this, who you know has been sitting next to her husband Jeff in
That's
the
right,
orchestra
yeah.
for 35 years or something unbelievable like that. But it speaks to you know your relationship and the fact that you've got so many common interests. You know, there are Saul. We talked a little bit about some of your interests outside of music, and I think that's something I'd love to talk about, like your building and painting and all that stuff that's going on in your house.
Yeah.
But there's a question that's come in. If you were not a professional musician, like if it hadn't worked out, what would you have been? Is it like in that area?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you what, my first ambition, and I think I was 2, was to be a cement truck driver.
Yeah,
Apparently, I could spot them from a mile away. But more seriously, like music, as I get older, I thought I'd understand music more. I understand it less. Like the intangibility of music
so true.
absolutely bamboozles me. Like notes on a page don't exist. We pick up our instruments, we play, we make sound. It exists. I know I hear it, but it's gone and it's in the past. And at the end of the night, did it really happen? It really, my poor little brain cannot cope. So when I have other interests, I like tangibility just to balance that. So building something, I can be creative. I wake up in the middle of the night designing a table or a cabinet or something.
Yeah.
And then I build it and it's there. And the next morning I wake up and I look at it and it's there. And the next morning I wake up, it's there. And I find that really helps stabilize me because music is so intangible. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I love it, but
totally.
it drives me crazy.
You need something a bit more concrete every now and again. And I mean, you've been pretty busy, haven't you? Like even during the lockdown, making furniture, building sheds. I need a shed built. Just throwing it out there. Okay,
Well,
just letting you know.
It can happen.
Yeah. Well, there's still a little bit of lockdown time left. Let's see when we're allowed to go to each other's houses. Maybe we can look at that.
Gladys versus Dan.
Yeah.
Lockdown 6. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Who's coming out first?
The final battle. Freya, what about you? Because I know you're very physical. You know, you're very sporty and you love outdoors kind of stuff. What kind of stuff do you like doing outside of music?
I'm an avid skier. Love skiing. Used to be a competitive skier. I used to do a lot of running as well. Ice skating, rollerblading, hikes.
Is music limiting in that way? that you know, I mean, it's quite physical though, playing in the orchestra, isn't it? I suppose.
It is. No, music's not limiting. Music, for as long as I can remember, has just inspired me. It's probably not been, I mean, until I got a job in an orchestra, it wasn't so physical. Up until then, it was a big mental game, and I really thrive on that. I love being mentally stimulated in that way, and it does it for me in so many different ways.
Yep.
But yeah, I have to say, actually, having a job and playing, well, every week, hopefully soon, it is quite tiring, actually. But, you know.
It's interesting what you were saying about how stimulating actually playing music is in the orchestra, because it is so, you know, active, high stress. You've got the thrills, the highs and the lows, and the focus. Have you really missed that, given the fact that you know you haven't been able to do too much else?
Oh my goodness! I mean, besides being pregnant, I think like my brain's operating at about 50% capacity, and I mean,
that's just being pregnant, though.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Could be.
I've been told that.
But not, not having the excitement of going to work. I mean, so many things happen when you're at work, when you're preparing for your concerts. Just even during rehearsals, there's a bajillion things going on because you've got your own responsibility. You've got the people around you. You've got your ears on, like, across the orchestra to make sure you're playing with the double basses and the, you know, trombones whilst playing with your stand partner and checking out your leader and the concert master, and then making sure you can actually play your part. And if you can't, when are you going to be able to fix that so you can nail the concerts? Like, there's constantly things firing, and I can say none of that's been happening.
I mean, there are so many cliches in sports. A game of two halves, and you've got to focus on the next shot and live in the moment. Music demands that you focus on where you are when you are there.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I miss being on stage in a concert after all the preparation and rehearsals. And if it's a difficult concert, or if it's got some challenging solos, or it's something that you're not feeling comfortable with and you've had to find a way during the week of getting there, I miss that moment of like, here we are, here's that moment. I've got to be in that moment now. Let's see what happens.
You know, Saul, both of you, but particularly Saul, the way you've stepped up this year, I'm really conscious of, because there have been, so many split programs where, because you're for people who don't understand how horn sections are structured, where there's a principal horn, the first horn, who normally takes a lot of the big repertoire and solo works, but there's also the principal third horn who takes hell of a lot of that stuff as well, right? And that's your job, principal third horn. And you've actually had to play principal horn for a lot of this, the first half of this year. And I just wanted to thank you for that, because you've done such a spectacular job stepping up into that role. I've got just so many wonderful memories of the solos that you've played this year. There's a question about the horn has so many high pressure exposed moments. You can't hide in that section. How do you prepare for that moment? How do you get the entry just right?
Okay, well, I've probably been working on that for 40 years, and I think I'm just starting to understand it. So if that person wants to contact me, I'll give them a thesis on how I prepare for that. But there's a lot of tricks to the trade. There's a lot of preparation required, and there's a lot of letting go. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of there's an amazing recipe. It's like a Christmas cake that you prepare 6 months before and saturate the fruit with rum and wait long enough and put it at this temperature. There's a lot of preparation that goes into getting ready for that one moment, like Bruckner 4, where you just come in and you just pop it. Yeah. And in the end, I feel like we're all gamblers. I feel like classical musicians, we're gamblers. We go to the casino and we roll the dice, and we love that buzz, because as much as we prepare for any one entry in music, we don't know what's going to happen. And I think we kind of love that.
That's the thrill of it, isn't it? The excitement and the anxiety all rolled into one.
Yeah.
A question for you, Freya, and this might be a little early to be answering this, but let's see. My 13-month-old son goes to sleep listening to Nessun Dorma from Turandot. Wow, he's a thrill seeker as well. Loves his high B.
Certainly is.
Do you have a listening recommendation for our next bub who is on the way? Have you thought about that? What kind of music you might use to soothe
Is it a boy
your baby?
or a girl? I wonder. Nessun Dorma, that's a big male. That's a big tenor.
Yeah. We've actually been told about white noise.
Oh, yeah.
Have you found any reactions to the music at all yet?
No, not so much. No. I can't give any advice there.
No, I know. It's impossible. Until you've been there, it's absolutely impossible.
I would guess that the baby tells you, doesn't it? The way it responds. I mean, Ben, you've gone through this.
Don't even remind me. No, you're going to be fine. It's just a walk in the park. No, I mean, you hear stories about some babies just sleep and people are like, oh, it's been so easy. No, not for us. That wasn't the case at all.
And move them on to Flight of the Valkyries.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
I love
exactly. Imagine that. You just have to turn up Ride of the Valkyrie really loud. That's the only way your baby will go to sleep. People think
my dad and I used to argue about the best of the three tenors, and my dad was Domingo, and I was a Pavarotti fan. So
yeah. Well, look, I know how much you guys love to have fun. You love having a good time, right? So there's a question from one of your colleagues, Michelle Wood, which has come in. You're two of the hardest workers I know, but you have the most fun doing what you do. And I think that's a wonderful combination, right? And it's interesting for young musicians. And she's asking, what advice do you have for aspiring musicians during this particularly difficult time?
Oh, goodness. Stay busy. Do different things. Music isn't everything. It's important to be versatile as well.
Yeah.
And to apply that when you can. But
I'm going to be a bit of a science geek. I'm going to give a science geek answer to this.
Go on then.
Because like music is sound is cycles, isn't it? Like A is 440, A above that is 880, and life to me is the same. There are cycles in life. Some of them really fast, like I'm hungry, I need to eat. Now I need to sleep. Now I need to eat. And there are big, long cycles. Some of them like, I'm going to push really hard for my career for 3 years. That's probably down at A110, you know? So if you're going really hard for a long period of time, maybe this is the period where you have your rest time.
A little break.
You have you're sort of like, I'm just not going to go so hard. You can't go hard. I mean, I was thinking about the famous saying, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
Yep.
And I sort of thought, if you aim for 0.25% improvement a week, it seems like, am I getting better? But in a year, that's 13%. In 10 years, you're almost quadruple better than you were 10 years before. So just don't be in a hurry, you know, like if this is downtime, take it, embrace it, lie on the couch, watch Netflix, and get your creative, energy back, because you're going to need it.
Yeah.
When life's back on, it's going to go hard and fast, and you're going to wish I was more rested. So take some rest, take some recreation, have a bit of fun. Don't feel guilty. That would be
that's great. That's great advice, you guys. You know, I've written down just some really silly two-word questions. I'm going to throw them at you one at a time.
Okay.
And you just got to answer quickly. And there's no trick questions or anything. I just thought it might be a little bit of fun, you know, to wind up the interview. Freya, cats or dogs?
Oh, no. My mind went cats first, but damn it, I thought I was both. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. They're not easy questions. These are the hardest questions I've got for the whole night, actually, when I think about it. Saul, Mozart or Mahler?
Oh, Mahler.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mozart's too hard for a start. So,
Stresses me
Freya,
out.
Shostakovich or Debussy?
Oh, Debussy.
Yeah. Okay. Saul, Brahms or Tchaikovsky?
Ooh.
What happened?
Oh, I'm going to go Brahms. I'm going to go Brahms.
So hard, isn't it?
Not because I find him more stressful, but
Yeah.
I like the challenge. Yeah.
This is my new favorite segment.
It's
Okay,
cool. I
Freya.
like it. Oh, this is fun.
Viola or clarinet?
Viola.
Sorry, did you just say viola? Okay.
Yeah.
Saul, Saul,
don't do this to me.
Maya Bowl or Hamer Hall?
Hamer Hall.
Okay. Freya, jazz or rock?
Oh, jazz.
Okay, that was a silly question, really.
I don't-
Saul, pasta or stir fry?
Stir fry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, controversial. Controversial. Freya, AFL or NRL?
Oh, God. Yeah, AFL.
AFL, and you're both Mad Swans fans. We should point that out and go to the footy all the time, which is awesome. Saul, sunshine or snow?
Snow.
Yeah, right.
Love it. Yeah.
Would that be you as well, Freya?
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought you'd go for sunshine.
So did I. Maybe I want to think about that.
Interesting. Yeah, well, you
I
can
just
get back to me.
responded, Ben. I just took your lead and I responded.
That's eight. It's 8:53. We've got plenty of time. Freya, red or white?
Oh, red.
Red. There you go. Oh, Saul. Oh, this is a question for both of you, really. Boy or girl?
It's a girl.
Do you know that for sure?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So Christmas.
We're going to call it
Christmas is a
Lilybet.
weird name. What? Sorry, what are you going to call it?
Lilybet, I think, isn't it?
Lilybet Christmas Lewis.
Lilybet
I'm gonna dye my
Christmas
hair
Lewis.
red, and we've got like Megan from Suits here. It's going to be Lilybet.
Well, that's a beautiful name. That's much nicer than Rudolph, which was my suggestion. But look, Saul and Freya, thank you for indulging me on that.
I love that.
That's
That's
amazing.
a
So
good
it's
segment,
pretty
Ben.
good, isn't
Keep
it?
it up.
I'm just going to keep those rolling in
they're
future.
good,
I'm
they're
going to
good.
roll those out because it's interesting, just to see what.
You're like
what
I'm on the Graham
different things are.
Norton show. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, there you go. I'm the Graham Norton of
You're the Ben
Melbourne's
Norton.
classical
Ben
music.
Norton.
Ben Norton,
Norton.
perfect. It's
Love it.
just brilliant. Yeah, minus the paycheck. But anyway,
Yeah.
this has been a real treat for all of us tonight. I'd like to thank you so much for letting us into your newly married lives. And we can't wait to hear the big news around Christmas, around the
Yay.
birth of your
Thanks, Ben.
firstborn. That is
All
so
be revealed.
super exciting.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, so thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Tarawara Wines. I can see that bottle behind you guys there in the
Beautiful.
shot for your support. What is that? the Estate Pinot from Not
Estate
That I Know
Pinot,
Much.
beautiful.
Yep, I could tell by the label. For their support of
I'll
Up Late
drink
with
it.
Ben Northey. And also their support of the MSO. I think a few lucky subscribers have
Yes.
had some gifts of Tarrawara wines in the
Yummy.
lead up to the big launch tomorrow.
Woo!
To our team behind the scenes here, big thanks to you. Thanks to all of you for watching this episode. And yes, don't forget the 2022 season launches tomorrow. I'm going to be doing some radio interviews and there'll be lots of press and publicity around that. The season is fantastic. It's brimming with great music and great artists. The musicians of the MSO, as always, are the real stars of the season, and we can't wait to welcome you back to the concert hall when we get back on stage again. And as vaccination rates rise, every day is one day closer to that. So don't lose hope. We are in a marathon, but we are nearly there. So until next time, thanks again, Saul. Thank you so much, Freya. I'll see you guys very soon.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We've got
I'm
5
Ben
minutes
Northey.
before curfew finishes.
Amazing.
get
Yeah,
out
you can
for
go
some,
for a 5
you know.
minute walk.
Yeah, for a walk.
I'll see you soon, guys. I'm Ben Northey. Go well.
Bye. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, you clear, guys.
Well
Hey.
done, Saul. Well
Good on
done,
you, Ben.
Freya.